I'm sure that you must have heard this term called as pi. See, pi is a very interesting number. It's a mathematical constant, and basically pi is the ratio of circumference of a circle with its diameter. Okay, and approximately it has value that is 3.14159. So this is the value, approximate value of pi. Now, why I'm talking about pi in C++ video? This is a very interesting question, because in this video we are going to discuss about const keyword in C++. So let's quickly get started. So I'll just give you a background by writing a simple code. Let me just start with including the header file. Okay, cool. So I have written a simple template that we have to write every time, right? Now what I'll do is I'll store this constant in some variable. Okay, now tell me which variable or which type of variable we can create in order to store this type of constant. So we have two options. First option is we can use float, or second option is we can use double. So any constant is going to work for us, float or double. We know that double is more precise, and in the previous video we have also discussed about sizes of the variable. So we know that float takes 4 byte of size and double take 8 byte of size. Why double is taking 4 byte extra? Because it is more precise as compared to float. But right now our number is not that big. There are not too many numbers after the decimal point. That's why we can also go with float data type for storing this number. So what I'll do is I'll create one variable of type float. I'll name it as pi, that is pi, and then I'll assign this value in this variable. And as it is a float constant, you can append small f after this. Now there is one important thing over here. See, in float constants we append small f after the number, but even if you don't append small f after the number, then this constant will become a double constant. See, if I hover over here, you can see in bracket it is showing double because it is a double constant right now. And if I write f over here, then you can see over here the VS Code is showing that now it is a float constant. But there is one interesting thing over here. You can assign double constant to float variable. That is fine. I mean, it works. So you can create or you can assign a double constant to a float variable. That is also going to work. So it doesn't matter, or it's not compulsory to write small f after float constant if you want to assign it into a float variable. But still, as a best practice, you should always write small f after a float constant whenever you are assigning it to the float variable. Now once we have value in our variable, which is pi, what I'll do is I'll maybe perform some operations on this variable. Okay, so what I'll do is maybe I'll just print value of pi. So I'll write value of pi is, let's print value of pi. So I'll write pi followed by endl. Now what I'll do is, let's say I'll create one variable, let's say radius, and let's take value of this radius from the user. So I'll write cout for the user. I'll write please enter radius. See, we have seen all these concepts. Okay, so cout will show this line to the user on the screen. Then I'll write cin to get value of radius from the user. All right, and maybe now what I'll do is I'll print circumference of this center, this circle. So I'll write cout circumference of this circle is, and we'll print circumference. So what is circumference of a circle? It is nothing but 2 pi r, right? So I'll write 2 into pi. See, for multiplication we have this star. In C++, for multiplication we can use star. See, in the next module we are going to discuss about the operators. Right now we are performing simple multiplication operator. It's not that difficult to understand. That's why I'm showing you in this video only. So for multiplication we can use star. So it's 2 into pi into r. So we have our pi value in this pi variable. So I'll write pi over here, that is my variable name, into my radius. What is my radius? So radius is stored in this radius variable. So I'll multiply it by radius followed by endl. So what we'll do is we'll quickly compile and execute this code. Let me just clear my terminal. So let's compile this code. G++, name of my file is 04_const.cpp. Okay, it has got compiled. Now let's quickly execute the executable file. Okay, so at first it is printing value of pi. It is saying that value of pi is 3.14159, which is absolutely correct, right? Now it is printing enter radius. So how it is getting printed? So it is getting printed because of this line. We are writing cout over here. So this thing is getting printed. Then this cursor is waiting for the input. So we have to enter value of radius. So let's say I enter value of radius as, let's say, 10. Then you can see that it is printing circumference of this circle is 62.8318. Okay, so in this way our program is working. Now let me tell you one important thing over here. See, value of this pi is always going to be 3.14159. This is correct, right? It's not going to be changed because this is a mathematical constant. The value of this variable is always going to be same. Let's say what happens is you write this program, and let's say you give this program to some another developer. Let's say you give this file to some another developer, and the another developer started working on this file. Now accidentally what he did is, let's say after printing circumference of the circle, let's say you give that developer task to print area of the circle. So let's say he has to print area of the circle. So let's say he started writing something like this: area of this circle is, so what is the formula for the area of circle? So it is nothing but pi into r square. Okay, so r is nothing but our radius. So I'll write pi multiply by radius. So this is nothing but pi r square, right? Followed by e and dl. Now before printing the area, what happened is that developer, the new developer, accidentally he changed value of pi with something else. He changed value of pi to 6.7, and we have seen that we can always change value of the variable. Once we initialize the variable, after that we can always change their value, and this is something happened over here. See, ideally this should not be allowed. This should not be allowed. The reason is pi is a mathematical constant and its value should be always 3.14. No one should be allowed to change its value in future. Whenever people are writing code in the same programming file, they should not be allowed to change its value. But in this case, as pi is a variable, we can always change its value. And what is going to happen? See what is going to happen. Let me show you. So I'll print area of circle 2 times. So I'll write original area of this circle is, let's say, pi into radius, and over here I'll write wrong area of this circle is pi into radius. See, this is before modifying value of pi, area whatever we are printing, and this area which we are printing over here, it is after modifying value of pi. Let's quickly compile and execute this code. So let's enter value of radius as 10. You can see original area of this circle is 314.15, but the wrong area of this circle that we are getting is 617. You can see there is a huge difference. It's literally twice of the original area. And why we are getting this wrong area? It's because this pi has got modified. Now what is the solution for this? How we can solve this issue? So the solution for this is const keyword. What we can do is, whenever we create a variable, we can create that variable as a constant variable. So whenever we say a constant variable, what is going to change or what is going to happen? So once you create a constant variable, you can initialize it, or you have to initialize that variable, but after initialization you will not be able to modify its value. So let's quickly try that. Let's see what is the syntax of creating constant variable. It's very easy. What you have to do is, before the data type keyword, you have to write one more keyword which is going to be const, C-O-N-S-T. So this const keyword indicates that the programmer has to create a constant variable. It tells C++ that I want to create a constant variable. Now what happens when we create constant variable? C++ gets to know that, okay, this is a constant variable, so user has to initialize this variable, or programmer has to initialize this variable, but in future programmer will not be able to modify its value. You can see over here this VS Code has started showing us some error. You can see over here on this line, on line number 18, we are getting one red underline below this pi, and if I hover over here, you can see that it is saying expression must be a modifiable L value. Okay, so we are getting some error. Okay, now if I compile this code, let's say if I compile this, you can see that we are getting error from the compiler. The compiler is saying assignment of read only variable pi. So what does that actually mean? So this means that pi is kind of read only variable, you cannot modify it once you assign it an initial value. Once you initialize it, after that it's not allowed to modify it. So now no one will be able to write this line, and no one will be able to, will not get any wrong area, because no one will be able to modify pi until and unless they remove explicitly const keyword from here, okay, which I don't think any good programmer will do. So yeah, I mean, this is the constant keyword. Now there are two important rules regarding constant keyword, so let's quickly discuss them. First and most important rule about the const keyword is whenever you create a variable with const keyword, it needs to be initialized. You cannot keep that variable uninitialized. So if I remove this line, or if I remove the initialization from here, let's see what happens. See, VS Code has started showing us an error over here. So it is saying const variable pi requires an initializer. So this basically means whenever you are creating a const variable, it needs to be initialized. This is rule number 1. You cannot keep it uninitialized. And rule number 2 says that once you initialize the variable, you will not be able to change its value. You will not be able to modify its value. That's it. I mean, that's about the const keyword. This keyword is really helpful. As a good programmer, you should always use this keyword whenever you feel that the value of the variable is going to be fixed. It's not going to be changed, or it should not be changed by anyone. In such scenarios, you should always use this keyword.